week's Drive, we talk to the man who's putting American racing in a spin. Catch up with a very busy Catherine Legg. Look at Audi's next plan for world domination. And see just how badly wrong some things can go. All this and more in this week's Drive. Late last year, retired Formula One stars raced at Kyalami in the Grand Prix Masters. Nigel Mansell was among the drivers making a return to competitive racing. Technical changes made since he won the title in 1992 have changed Formula One a great deal. And Mansell believes that the 2005 season was an exciting championship. He expects an even brighter future for the sport.
For Formula One, it's had probably its best year in recent years, and I think next year should probably be the better year for probably the last 7 or 8 years. So I think Formula One's in great shape. I think some of the regulations are being tweaked now and improving. Certainly qualifying is a much bigger improvement to the one-lap qualifier, which I actually said a number of years ago was not very good. Formula One will always be the pinnacle of motorsport. It's a fantastic show, and I just hope that the rules are such that there's a more level playing field for everyone to compete and have a great year.
Fernando Alonso won his maiden world title last year, ending Michael Schumacher's run of 5 titles. Kimi Räikkönen could have outscored Alonso had it not been for breakdowns in 3 of the first 4 rounds of the year.
With technology, you can't stop progress, but what you can do is govern it. And I think with Formula One, the only constructive criticism I'll say, especially with driving the Grand Prix Master cars, we don't have power steering, we don't have traction control, we have to manually input the gears up and down, and I think that should return to Formula One, because then the driver will be able to input the car. There'll be a lot of overtaking opportunities created because drivers get tired, they make mistakes, but with the computer technology that's on the cars and the driver aids, with traction control, with automatic gearboxes and everything else, you know, the drivers don't make mistakes coming out the corners because the computer and all the aids do it for them.
Schumacher, who gave Ferrari their first championship in 20 years, has hinted that he may consider retirement at the end of next year.
I think for next year, Renault should do a great job at defending their world championship, and I feel Ferrari will bounce back. And McLaren now have got no question the quickest car, but Adrian Newey now is one of the greatest designers ever in Formula One. He's going to Red Bull, so that will impact on McLaren. So we'll just have to wait and see what happens.
In just his 3rd year in the season, 26-year-old Frenchman Sébastien Bourdais has become the dominant driver in Champ Car, one of 2 top open-wheeled racing series in North America. Bourdais has made it look easy, winning 6 of 13 races last year to wrap up his 2nd consecutive championship. Just the 5th driver to win back-to-back championships in the Champ Car series. How did he view the 05 season?
Well, it's big. I mean, for the team, because it's the first time for Numerous Racing. For myself, obviously last year was my first accomplishment at the professional level. And now it's, you know, we repeat it. And you know, as everybody says, it's tough to get there, and it's even harder to stay at the top. So it was the big challenge of the season, and we took over it. And you know, it makes you feel very good and proud of all the guys you've been working with for now 3 seasons, and just all the rewards that I think we really deserve.
Team bosses Hollywood icon Paul Newman and Carl Haas have run a winning team for the past 23 years, amassing 90 victories and 6 titles.
Well, I think this is really a culture about winning. You know, there are really high expectations. It's like a winning standard. You know, like if you win, everybody's happy, and it's like normal. And it's when you lose that it's like, hey, what's going on?
American racing is crowded, and Champ Car vies for attention with IRL and the NASCAR series. Attendance and TV viewing figures are improving, but Bourdais isn't a household name like his peers in NASCAR and IRL.
Everybody tends to forget that, you know, what used to be called IndyCar, and that is now Champ Car, is, you know, used to be bigger than NASCAR. And when you think back in these times, it's only 10 years ago, and that kind of really tells you, you know, you need to be positive about it, because it can flip upside down very quickly, and I'm pretty sure that the product is just as good as it used to be. It just needs to be brought back in front of cameras.
Bourdais concedes that fast oval tracks may have a place, but they've seen several big crashes. Ryan Briscoe sustained concussion, 2 broken collarbones and a bruised lung after just brushing Alex Barron.
I'm saying IRL is basically trying to apply the NASCAR model on an open racing series, and I think obviously you don't have fenders and cars get together and fly in the air and they're going to kill someone. There's absolutely no doubt in my mind it's going to happen, and that's just, I shouldn't say that, and it's too bad, but I'm just convinced it's going to happen, and I'm just, I just hope they're going to stop it before it happens.
Bourdais won the 2002 Formula 3000 Championship, and many Formula One teams took notice. But opportunities with Arrows and Renault didn't work out.
Unfortunately, no opportunity came by, and I had to, switch plans. And I was very fortunate to find refuge here in the US and to be so successful in Champ Cars. But basically, I got the chance here in America that I didn't get in Europe, and that's just the way things go in racing. You need to be lucky enough to have a great opportunity. A lot of drivers never had it. It doesn't mean they were not good. It just means, there are only so many places and seats available in F1.
After winning Formula 3000, Bourdais came to Champ Car, taking 3 wins, 3 seconds and Rookie of the Year. But despite his success, he remains very level-headed.
I'm not looking for fame. I'm a race car driver. I'm not a superstar. So, I get my satisfaction by my success and all the pride and the happiness I get, to hang out with people that share the same passion, and it's sufficient for me.
Sebastian.
Recently, the PKV Champ Car team held a 2-day test session for Catherine Legg. The 25-year-old English woman spent 2 days at Sebring testing for the team co-owned by IndyCar veteran Jimmy Vasser. She notched up 119 laps on the 1.6-mile circuit. Legg became the first woman to win a major open-wheel race in North America, claiming 3 victories last year in the Atlantic Championship, Champ Car's development category. Here, she proved she can handle the heavier and more powerful cars. Not that it's been easy.
They're helping me through it because it's a big step, and the car's pretty brutal, to be honest. It's a really hard car to drive, and that's good because it makes it more of a driver's car, right? So it's just learning and getting every bit in place and trying to make myself consistent first before we change the car, and then we'll work on that a bit later.
Legg's whirlwind off-season began in November when she tested with the Minardi Formula One team, now called Toro Rosso, at the Vallelunga circuit. On the first day of the test, with temperatures near freezing and Legg adjusting to the Minardi's traction control electronics, she smacked the wall. The next day, she ran 30 trouble-free laps, consistently improving her times and going quicker than regular Minardi test driver Chanak Nissany. Legg drove nearly 600 kilometres in the Champ Car test and impressed Jimmy Vasser, and he should know a thing or two about open-wheel racing. He was the 1996 Champ Car Series champion. Vasser said Legg will definitely be considered for PKV's plans for the upcoming 2006 season.
She's got a lot of the good points down in driving the Champ Car, and now the thing is just more time, and the more familiar she gets with what the car's capable of doing, and then after that to the point where she can actually start adjusting the car for her own needs, her own driving style. That's our main goal here.
In December, Catherine tested an A1 Grand Prix car in Dubai at the invitation of John Surtees, co-owner of the British team. Then she was off to Sebring for her first Champ Car test, where she took a studied approach to her driving.
I'm trying to learn as much as I can from all the people involved because, like you say, they have a massive wealth of experience to be gleaned from. And, for instance, Jimmy is just being a fantastic mentor right now. He knows everything about the car. He's been around it so long, and the guys as well are being fantastic. And it's kind of overload for me because there's so much to be learned that I'm trying to pick it all up, and some of it's stuck and some of it needs saying again.
While Danica Patrick continues to grab headlines racing in Indy cars, Legg adds to her experience on the track and just might be driving a champ car this season. The world's first ever diesel-powered Audi sports prototype capable of winning the famous Le Mans 24-hour motor race was launched in Paris. Seven-time Le Mans winner Tom Christensen drove the Audi R10 through the streets of the French capital, and later this year it will line up alongside some of the world's fastest petrol-powered cars.
It's a great challenge Audi has given us. A brand new car, long wheelbase, big, nice engine, 12-cylinder, 5.5 litre diesel, and obviously this is a new challenge for us as driver. We have a lot of power, and to get it good drivable, it takes a lot of optimizing in the diesel and have everything to work in the right way. And it's a great challenge, and as a driver, we look forward.
The turbo diesel R10 replaces Audi's R8 prototype, which scored 61 wins, including Le Mans 5 times and the American Le Mans Series 6 times in a row.
I would say a couple of years ago, I would think that going with diesel in a racing car at Le Mans would be further away in the future. But again, Audi and with the partner Shell have proved that in a very short time they have been able, with good technology, and come with something which has a chance. And obviously the chance means a nice challenge.
The car is tipped to be faster on the straights than its petrol-powered rivals. The 5.5-litre V12 puts out 650 horsepower.
And on the other hand, you have a diesel engine which at about third gear, relatively low speed, you can't really hear the engine from a driver's point of view. And this is very unusual. And this is something we have to get used to, and we have to optimize in the way we drive the car.
NASCAR driver Robby Gordon led Team Dakar USA in a Hummer H3 truck in the Dakar Rally, the toughest off-road race in the world, with its huge distances, brutal terrain and extreme conditions.
Our off-road technology is pretty good, and last year when I went and did it for the first time with Volkswagen, I was in awe of the response, not only from the competitors, but from the fans and the media and everything else involved. The Dakar Rally is huge in Europe, and I think this year with the coverage that OLN is going to do in relationship with speed, I think that we'll be able to bring the Dakar Rally closer to America, where our fans here and friends can actually watch the race as it goes on. I've raced off-road in the Baja deserts for many years, and now to be able to build our own team with a Hummer H3 and go over and challenge the world in probably the toughest, for sure the toughest off-road race in the world, is very exciting.
Once the event started, it was former World Rally champion Carlos Sainz who won the first stage on New Year's Eve. The Spaniard, in his first Dakar at the age of 43, completed the run from Lisbon to Portimao in a VW Touareg. His co-driver is Andreas Schulz, who's won the event twice. Sainz, World Rally champion in 1990 and 92, finished 90 seconds ahead of Nissan's Carlos Souza. The Portuguese prevented a clean sweep by VW. Mitsubishi made a disappointing start with defending champion Frenchman Stefan Pederhansel and Japan's Hiroshi Masuoka both suffering punctures. Pederhansel was obliged to stop to change a flat tyre and finished in 12th spot. In the motorcycle section, KTM was in a class of its own, with 4 of the top 5 places. Defending champion Cyril Dupre of France finished 4 seconds ahead of Portugal's Ruben Faria, with Spaniard Marc Coma in 3rd. This year, the 28th running of the event, sees new regulations which include a maximum speed limit of 150 kilometres an hour and greater emphasis on navigation. More than 1,400 people are competing in cars, trucks, ATVs, motorcycles, and even a couple of sidecar outfits. The second stage would take the field from Portimao to Malaga in Spain over 567 kilometres, including a 115-kilometre timed leg. Conditions were perfect for the rally's second special stage, and all eyes were on Carlos Sainz, who didn't put a foot wrong. He clocked 1 hour, 34 minutes and 28 seconds in his Volkswagen, finishing 25 seconds ahead of last year's runner-up, French Mitsubishi driver Luc Alphand. The race covers all types of terrain in southern Europe, North and West Africa, including mountains, farmland and desert. Competitors can encounter sub-zero temperatures and snow, as well as sandstorms and searing desert heat.
Before a fence and after left.
Former downhill skiing champion Alphand has moved from a BMW to a works Mitsubishi in his fourth attempt at the Dakar. Qatar's Nasser Salih Al Attiyah, driving a BMW, bounced back from his disappointing 13th place in Stage 1 to take third place, 34 seconds behind Sainz. In the motorcycle section, KTM riders again grabbed the top 3 places on Stage 2. Ruben Faria won the stage, 1 minute and 7 seconds ahead of Spain's Isidre Esteve. Frenchman David Costeau came third to complete the KTM trifecta. Esteve's second place was enough to put him top of the overall standings, 8 seconds ahead of compatriot Mark Comer, also on a KTM. Although Faria clocked the second fastest time on his way to Portimao, he was handed a 12-minute penalty for being late at the start of Stage 1. From Malaga, the field had a 7-hour boat trip to Morocco for the 672-kilometre third stage from Nador to Rashidia. Australian Andy Caldecott rode his KTM to victory in the third stage, the first real racing section on the African continent, lifting him up to fourth place overall. His race would end 6 days later. Double former Dakar winner Jean-Louis Schlesser won the car section. Navigational problems put paid to Carlos Sainz's hopes of making it 3 consecutive stage victories, but he returned to winning ways on the 386-kilometre timed fourth stage in Morocco. A third win in 4 stages saw the Spanish Volkswagen driver reclaim his lead at the top of the overall standings. Second place went to Thierry Magnaldi, who finished 2 minutes off the pace, leapfrogging Sainz's German teammate Jutta Kleinschmidt, while Luc Alphand came third to move into fourth place overall behind the 3 Volkswagens. Bike racer Isidre Esteve Pujol seemed to be living a charmed existence on the first stage of the rally that headed into Morocco's potentially treacherous sand dunes. The Spaniard was the fastest rider over the stage with a time of 4 hours, 13 minutes and 1 second. The stage win lifted Esteve Pujol and his KTM up from 9th place in the overall motorcycle standings to 2nd, 4 minutes and 51 seconds behind overall leader Mark Comer, who steered his KTM to 2nd place on the stage. Comer went close to achieving his first stage win of the 2006 competition, but finished 28 seconds behind his compatriot. Stage 6 took the competitors from the Moroccan town of Tantan to Zouarat in Mauritania. Frenchman Magnaldi set the pace in his Ford-powered buggy and went on to take the stage on 4 wheels. Meanwhile, the Volkswagen of South Africa's Geniel de Villiers took the overall race lead from Carlos Sainz, who had a disappointing day. The Mitsubishis of Stefan Peterhansel and Luc Alphand were moving through the desert at reasonable speeds, keeping them in contention for the race lead. Guerlain Chichery had a bumpy ride in his BMW, but claimed 9th on the stage. One of the spectacles on the stage was the longest train in Africa, measuring 2.5 kilometres. Vladimir Shagin maintained his truck-class lead in his 28th Dakar rally and found time to pull fellow Russian Andrei Ivanov out of the sand. Defending champion Cyril Dupre was trying his hardest to make up ground on leader Mark Comer, but a moment's lack of concentration smashed up his bike and wiped out his navigation gear. He quickly got going again, but his service crew would have plenty of work to do that night. Isidre Esteve Pujol was in hot pursuit, with Comer and Chilean rider Carlo de Gavardo close behind as they took on the undulations of the sandy terrain. Just watching the way the bikes move around at high speed puts any normal bike rider on the edge of their seat. At the overall camp, Dupre was forced to pay a visit to the medics following his earlier crash. Amazingly, tests showed he had dislocated his shoulder, but he remounted and finished the stage. Any normal rider would pack up and head for home, but Dakar riders aren't normal. Stage 7 of the Dakar Rally saw the field stay in Mauritania, travelling the 499 kilometres from Zouarat to Attar. Stefan Peterhansel, looking for his 3rd race victory in a row, showed his mastery of the dense sand to post the fastest time of the day. Close behind was his Mitsubishi teammate Luc Alphand. The Former alpine skiing world champion shrugged off a neck injury, finishing the stage over 4 minutes behind Peter Hansel, but it was enough to put him top of the overall standings. Overnight leader Geniel de Villiers placing 4th. Jutta Kleinschmidt started and finished the day 3rd overall after another solid day, but is now 10 minutes off the race lead. Carlos Sainz suffered more than most in the soft sand, losing half an hour and slipping from 2nd to 5th overall. It was also a testing day for those on 2 wheels, although Mark Comer retained the lead. Cyril Dupre showed little sign of his dislocated shoulder as he tried to work his way through the field, but his performance on the day was only good enough for 9th place. Several riders came unstuck in the vast sand dunes, with Rodrigo Amaral requiring treatment after crashing, yes, another KTM. Other riders stopped, activated an emergency beacon and summoned aid. But one man having no such trouble was Chile's Carlo Di Gavado, who clinched his 2nd consecutive stage win to make up further ground on Comer. Italy's Giovanni Sala came 3rd, moving up from 5th overall. We'll wrap up the eventful Dakar Rally in next week's episode of Drive. When the world's #1 golfer, Tiger Woods, begins his PGA Tour campaign later this month, he'll have another champion at his side. Steve Williams had never competed in or won a national championship in Super Saloon car racing. However, in the New Zealand National Super Saloon Championship, just one race decided the champion for 2006 at the Bay Park Speedway in New Zealand's Bay of Plenty. Caddying duties for Tiger Woods has meant that Williams has never been in the country when the New Zealand title has been raced, but presented with the opportunity, he was the last qualifier from 40 cars for the 20 places on the grid for the final. The first 2 heats then found the top 20 that automatically went through, and then there were 2 further heats to determine grid positions for the winner-take-all final. Williams drove the 40 minutes from his home in nearby Hamilton in his 400 cubic inch 700 horsepower Ford Mustang Super Saloon. To qualify, he drove from the 12th row of his 2nd heat to a 2nd place finish. Like his employer, Williams surged through the field to pull off an amazing comeback as, with an 8th and a win in the 2 15-lap preliminary races, Williams was the #2 qualifier and started the 24-car final sharing an all-Ford front row with defending champion Bunter Pierce. Williams controlled the starts, with Levin driver Brett Emmeron his nearest threat, but the length of the straight behind at the finish as Williams took the checkered flag. Auckland veteran Lance Jennings, a driver that Williams cites as one of his racing idols, claimed 3rd position, but the day belonged to the delighted bagman.
Last night I had probably what I would think the best drive of my career, just to qualify from grid 22 to 2nd to make it on last points in. It's just outstanding to get in. I can't believe I've won it. It's just, you know, like I follow the sport crazy, and to actually beat these guys that I've sort of modelled myself on, especially Lance Jennings. Lance is a guy I tried to model myself on because I like his driving style, his consistency, and, you know, it was just a dream to beat these guys.
And finally, a Kiwi cameraman became part of the action when he was hurled in the air after a drag car driver crashed at 200 kilometres an hour. Amazingly, he suffered only minor injuries. The driver, Clark Fiddies, had to be cut unconscious from his wrecked Camaro, recently arrived from America.
I heard a very small tyre squeal from behind me, which I didn't really pay any attention to. And then all of a sudden, big bang. The next thing I know, I'm looking at the sky and then just doing a big flip backwards and crash, landing on the ground.
And Fiddies hopes to be back in the driver's seat as soon as possible. So whether you're jumping in the desert, signing your life away, or racing to your first win, so you stay on track and up to speed, make sure you catch next week's Drive.